Hello.
Hello.
Hi. We're live. Excellent. It worked. It worked. They're still letting us on the internet. Um, yeah, hi. Welcome to Retro Toy Princess. I'm Allison Troy. This is my lovely guest, the handsome, fills out a rogue costume like Rogue herself,
Just
Andrew
like
of
that.
Gayties Toys. We are both a little under the weather. I am hopped up on Dayquil and coffee. And I don't know if you've taken anything, Andrew.
Nothing
So
like
that's our caveat. If it gets wonky, it's the cold medication.
yes, let's play that.
Yeah, yeah. It's
Nothing
not
for
just
lifestyle.
it's the cold medication, and not in addition to us just being sassy bitches.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and really quick, the chat is wait. The
I'm already
chat.
back.
I can't even do the J from Geek Dad Life. I'm gonna see if I can get him to do a soundbite of the chat is hopping. And it cracks me up. It sounds like something a dad, like a dad thing.
Well, very on
Um,
brand.
he's on brand, right? Hello, Rhea. Lovely to see you. Thank you for coming. I hope your birthday last week was lovely. Andrew, you're here, you're there, you're everywhere. Andrew is
I guess
in us and outside of. Oh, wait. That sounded bad. Never mind. Hello, Thanos. Speaking of things being inside of things, hi, Thanos. Good morning. Happy Sunday. Fist across America. Anyway, Alex, let's go. And happy birthday to Alex last week as well. So, Alex, they are celebrating their 29th birthday again, I think. So, congrats. 29 was great. I spent 10 years 29. It was amazing. Um, Hello, Stanley Sway Channel. Lovely to see you. I hope you're having a good day, Stanley. Glad you're back with us. It's been a while. He took some time off, so I'm glad to see Stanley hanging out. All right. We've said hello. Oh, wait. We can't forget CJ. Hello, titular heroine. Titular. I love it. All right. So as mentioned, I don't know if you heard it, CJ, we're both hopped up on cough syrup and sass. So this one might be the one that gets us canceled on the internet. So you'll be here to
yeah.
witness it. Um,
Your heavy
so
machinery.
yep. So I spent too much money buying the DC style guide, so I'm going to do what anyone on YouTube would do. I have scanned some of the pages and turned them into coloring pages, and Andrew and I are going to be coloring from that today. Definitely doing this page because this is literally every character we wanted Todd to do that Todd never did because Todd's a schmuck.
Yeah, this would do it.
My grandmother was Jewish, so I can say schmuck. It's not appropriation. Since he and I are under the weather, if we finish this, we may not do another one. But if the cough syrup kicks in and we get that second wind, I did post. I did scan a few other cool pages that might be fun to do. If not, we'll save them for when Andrew comes back. Because if you haven't figured it out by now, Andrew is one of my favorite people. And I make up reasons to invite him to come back. So, and you guys seem to enjoy Andrew as well because the chat is always hopping when Andrew. Oh my god, I can't even. And I adore Jay. Jay's a great guy. I'm not at
I
all.
feel like like whenever there's like rap in a cartoon, like say Tiny Toons, like it always
Yeah,
feels like that. It's like a boardroom,
exactly.
like keep rapping that.
And I grabbed the wrong box. Prismacolor, so let me grab the right box of Prismacolor. That is because again, I'm borderline hoarder / collector. This is the 132 set that I've barely touched because I've got the 72 set, and of course, again, because I'm out of control, I've got this, and this is also full of Prismacolor. Again, double. What is it? In college, my friend Jeremy used to call it double OC, out of control.
Gotta do it.
Yeah. Oh,
I
Jeremy.
think I saw the same Crayola pack from like the first time I came on. And they
I
are.
know. At some point, I'm gonna stop buying stuff for myself and try to smuggle through because everything is so fraught between the countries now. Try to smuggle you some decent pencils. Not that yours
Oh,
aren't fine, but I just feel like at this point, like you're
I could just
practically,
wait until thing. Like, it's not so
you're
much like lack of opportunity. It's just
yeah, you're like two more visits to this channel away from just needing to launch your own coloring channel, basically.
oh, I don't know if that's going to be happening. The funny thing is, like, I started off the year. I'm like, I'm almost done mine. Like, I'm almost done the MIA 80s ladies. Like,
Yeah.
I see a clear path forward. It's going to end this year. And then, like, at least once a week, someone's like, "Oh, what about?" And I'm like, I mean, like, I'm such a like that kind of control freak that I'm like, well, I have to do it. I have to. I've been there, and so I have to do it. So I don't know when that end game is anymore.
Well, yeah, because it's like you don't. That's what's funny though, is because you don't realize
It's a little
how many
depressing.
women figures we didn't get until like you open once you open the floodgates and people are like, but wait, what about?
Yeah, and I mean, and some of them are obscure and stuff like that. And I find those like are always kind of fun to talk about because I don't really know much about, the properties that like. 'Cause, I mean, we had like two channels growing up, and one of them was not good. So I mean, there was a lot of blind spots there. But nevertheless, I'm like, what did we get? It's like it was really like bleak for a while there. So
Yeah.
um, it is a fun educational little journey, but also like a little sad. It's just strictly because you're like, it's a lot. It's a lot.
Well, that's I because doing the research for J Toy Geeks, like two of my favorite ones were Inhumanoids and Crystar, just because they're so obscure. And you did an episode on Inhumanoid, so I had like a little bit of a. I also bugged you constantly for like, hey, by the way, and that episode was as amazing as it was because you put me on track to so much stuff that I had not found because it's on Facebook. Facebook I hate, so even though I'm on there, I still hate it. Um,
I'm not still like I know the guy,
yeah.
you know.
Well, and his stuff is accessible because I was able to access it through the browser. I don't have a Facebook on, so it's open to the public. Um,
Hmm.
but when I was even doing Crystar, I was doing the research. I'm like, why didn't they do the two ladies of Crystar? Like, there's a villain, and she's like a rock lady, and then there's sort of the blonde maid
Yeah,
become love interest, and it's like looking at and then there's a crystal woman. There were three different women they could have done in that line, and the
yeah.
crystal Mrs. Crystal, whatever her name is, I can't remember, she and the rock lady, they literally could have used the same mold and just different plastic.
Oh, for sure. I got the list here. It's Ambara and Lavore or Lavore or something like
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
But they are. It is. They're one of those ones where the villainess at least is like fun and monstrous and like has like
Hmm.
fun power, but then like the token love interest chick is just hot, and I'm like,
Yeah,
could you like she's just literally kind of like very like plain clothes, boring chick, and I'm like, you could be a little funner. Like it's a very Mara from New Adventures of He-Man,
yeah.
where she kind of started really boring, and you're like, sex her up, try to give her powers, give her a stupid ponytail.
Well, and Lavore and the Crystal Woman from like issue two. Well, she's teased at the end of issue one, but literally, it's like a Tila Evil in one sculpt. Even like the head sculpt, they could have pretty much just reused. Like it wouldn't have been 100% comic accurate, but if you look at those figures, they're not 100% comic accurate.
No, I mean like who's gonna really throw a fit over that? Huh.
Remco was Remco. Um, but yeah, like that was just sort of. But I had never even, like I saw Crystar figures as a kid, but other than wanting to get the Crystal Castle, it was
Hmm.
17.99 at Kmart. I wanted to get it because I was like, this would make a great Palace Alderaan for Princess Leia. But my mom was like, nah, that's too much. That was a year. I think that was the year they got me. But I really that year wanted the Annie Mansion. I think no, that was the year before. We'll talk about that some other episode.
Andy Mitch?
Yeah,
Like,
Annie.
oh,
Little
Annie.
Orphan Annie, the movie.
What an upbeat property that was.
It was such an well. That's what's so funny about it. Like, obviously, that's one of the things at some point I'm going to deal with on the channel, for obvious reasons. Obvious to you, Andrew, not maybe to the audience, but
As an orphan.
it's been a spiral of Annie as of late. Just revisiting it. But it's funny because as a kid, I was just like, she's such a plucky orphan, and they're singing and dancing, and wow. And then I rewatched Annie a few years back, and I was like, wait, this is a depression. Like, everyone's starving and hungry. Her
Yeah.
parents are dead. Um, the evil orphanage lady and her horrible brother and sister-in-law want to kidnap and murder the kid and take the money.
As you
And
do.
but and everyone's singing and dancing. I'm like, wow, all right. And then I went and researched the comic, and the guy who made there was so much political content in the original Annie. He didn't actually like FDR. So half of the comic, even though FDR ended up being a character in it, half of the comic was him criticizing FDR. And it was just such a, like, how did this end up on Broadway as like a musical that helped give us Sarah Jessica Parker? I mean, it makes sense, kind of, but because she was an Annie, like, it's just like, I don't know, like, it's gonna be when I finally get all of the Annie stuff together, because the Knickerbocker toy line was that was my 1982. My brother was getting Masters of the Universe. And it wasn't until toward the end of that year when I saw Tila on a card back and in a mini comic that I was like, oh, wait, what is this? If not
It
for
is
that card back, I would probably have an Annie channel right now.
maybe. It is funny like how like our parents had like their cartoons or comics or like it was all very depressing. Like it was like World War II, it was like Cold War, it was um always about like depression and like and, like and it's I kind of feel bad because it's like we had like really fun adventure style things.
Right.
Now people are like, oh, kids today don't want your property. I'm like, yeah, they do because they're fun. Like, what are you
Yeah.
talking about?
Well, and one of the things that struck me about, I haven't done a ton of research into Tintin because that looks boring as all hell.
It really is.
No offense to anyone who likes Tintin or the entire country of France, who apparently he's just a thing there even to this day. But Annie almost seems like either he was, sort of trying to rip it off a little or almost parroting it. Because even let me find them. They're literally right here. Just if people need to understand it. So this guy came in this week, so at some point. But like, so here's Annie. This one is the movie. This one is travels. It's literally her traveling around the world. And some of the issue is that Punjab is not politically correct. I don't know how Punjab was politically correct at any point in time. Let's see, that's an extra. This one has a movie cover, but again, she's traveling around the world, having adventures. It's very Tintin coded. Those are the only ones that, I mean, I've brought them out. I might as well just, again, this is, to understand what has been happening in my life the last 2 weeks.
Hard.
And this doesn't even count the stuff that's still in the mail on the way. And of course, everyone remembers when we played with paper dolls. And ironically, I had a lot of this as a kid. A lot of this did not survive the hurricanes. Or my mom randomly, like, you colored this entire coloring book, I'm going to throw it away. It's like, mother, I colored it all so I could keep it and it would be a complete, again, like, the amount of things that have clicked as to why I collect and the way I collect has just become evident. And yes, T person, I also wish they would throw the Silver Banshee somewhere and somewhere. Like, that's a
Yeah.
great character, especially if we still did vac metal and chrome applications on figures, even though that would not be accurate truly to the comic book, like some black and chrome, so lovely.
Even like Silver Banshee, not Silver Banshee, Silver Swan from Wonder Woman would look
Oh my god,
great.
right, all of them. Hello, Adam. Lovely to see everyone's favorite Battle Ram vlog. Um, wait, let me make this. Anytime I, Allison Troy, need to research He-Man and Masters of the Universe, Adam is my first stop. Also, I've gotten to chat with Adam a little bit about She-Ra stuff, and Adam is quickly surpassing me on She-Ra. So, and that's what I expect from the Battle Ram blog, which is your one-stop shop for all Masters of the Universe content. And yes, I say that a little sarcastically, but it's the actual effing truth, y'all. Like, Adam does actual, like, I feel so, I'm like, he's like a real reporter, guys. Because he's got
Like actual
sources and he digs into it, and I'm just like, I just sometimes tinker around and go down internet rabbit holes and stumble across stuff. There's Adam
yeah,
is
for me,
like,
a lot of stuff I do is like stuff I already knew, so it's like
mm,
pretty handy. So like it's stuff I've been looking at for years, kind of thing. But every time there's like some new property that I don't really know much about, I'm like, I have to do big boy research, and I hate this. And also, there's
yeah,
like because of the nature of the internet, both early on and also
yeah,
especially now, so much now is like AI slop that like it's hard to sparse what's legit and what's not, which is, that's internet literacy, that's media literacy. At the same time, like
mm-hmm.
there's just so much junk out there and so much like supposition without like any kind of backup that I'm like, I don't know what to really like, rely on here.
Well, for Toy Geeks, every time I start like researching for a property, the first hour or two of the research is literally the search part of it, but also trying to figure out whether or not it's a valid source or not. And what has been really interesting is for a lot of the properties, especially these more rare ones, the better properties are actually like stuff from like 2000 to 2010, these old like wannabe GeoCity Angel Fire sites tend to
Yeah,
have way more reliable information than even Wikipedia in some instances. And it's really kind of discouraging that and anytime that fandom thing, one, it's going to kill your computer.
yep.
Like it's slow. Like there have been times I've had to reboot because fandom just hoses everything up with all of its ads and trackers, and that's with an ad blocker and a tracker blocker. I think that's part of why it hoses it up though, is because it's trying to like break through all of my protections.
Oh
So,
yeah, that's on there. It's like trying to like reconfigure the whole screen so like it fits all the ads, and I'm like, calm down. Like, also
yeah.
like what ads do I need to see? Like what Toyota product are you hawking that I'm like, this is gonna change my life? This is it.
There's very little that they show. You know, the few times I've gone on there on a computer, or it's between like ad block updates. It's always some sort of crap. So, all right, for whatever reason, I'm blanking on Hawk Woman's color scheme. Hawk
I
Woman
do love that
DC.
they called her Hawk Woman back then.
There we go.
Um,
You know, you're
there's
doing
still
well when Google image search brings up 1985, 86 Who's Who entries.
and something that's like when like they were like from Panagar and they had that weird armor, or is
Yeah,
this the
that's
yeah
that's post crisis. This is where
yeah
she's still here, but she became Hawk Woman because she was Hawk Girl up until a point where when she joined, I guess, the Justice League. Because for a long time she wasn't actually a member of the Justice League, just Hawkman was. And then like late 70s, early 80s, they had her join as well. And that's when she became Hawk Woman. And I'm like, yeah, finally.
Yeah, respect.
Like,
It was very like, true story from Fantastic Four where like she went by, Invisible Girl for like probably like 30 years or something. Like,
yeah,
she had at least one kid at that point. And I'm like, I think it's time you call yourself a woman.
yeah. Yeah, it's just, I don't know. It just was always weird to me. Like I get Wonder Girl because she, well, one, she started when she was like 12, 13.
Mhm.
Um, I got Batgirl because when Batgirl arrived, there was technically Batwoman was technically still around, but I never understood. I mean, Hawk Girl, of course, it was just because in the Golden Age, that's what they called her. And I'm also the person who I don't care if you have 30 like spin-off characters. I was always like, why is there not a Bat Lad? So when I would do fan fiction, I always would create a Bat Lad.
Oh, too good for it.
But yeah, it's just, and of course, if DC ended up doing that, they brought back Hawk Girl, Kendra, and technically there was still Hawk Woman, and then they of course killed her off.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny, like I have to do another superpowers video next. I was waiting until this weekend to
Mm-hmm.
do one because I'm tired of talking about someone else. But now I can. But now there's the what's it called? Um, there's the cold medication coming
Right, you're fine.
in.
Hawk Woman. Um, we were talking
Aquaman,
about Hawk Woman, Hawk Girl, Jeff Johns, superpowers.
euthanasia. Yeah, I forgot that. It's all lost on me already. Um, but yeah, the whole superpowers thing, like I do like to think that, Hawk Woman would have been in it. Um, they would have called her Hawk Woman.
Mm-hmm.
Again, damn respect.
Well, that's what she was in the style guide at the time. So, like, it's kind of one of the really nice things about us finally getting, even though it is not a complete style guide, it is a Franken style guide of like 4 to 5 different, because it's got 82, 83. Like, this is 83, so this is even the second one because the original Supergirl's in the hot pants. But yeah, there was yeah, 82, 83, 84, 85, and 86, where I think, if I remember correctly, and I couldn't find my reference that I originally saw this in before I did my flip through video, so I didn't really include it. But for a while, the way it would work is you became a licensor of DC, and they sent you whatever style guide was on hand. So even if it was like 84, if they had an 82 on the shelf, that's what you would get. But then they would have all the sort of every year they would send you updates if you were on the licensor list. So which is probably because they said they had 2 different versions of it that they made. And that's, I think, what happened was one of them came from somebody who was getting all of the updates every year. And just adding them in there. But also, if they used any of them, most companies, what they would do is just take the page that they wanted to use, Xerox, do a Xerox copy of it, and then start cutting it up. So it's possible that there were pages missing, and I'm pretty sure there was because at one point I had found a Warlord page from the style guide, and that's not in here. I couldn't find it for the video, which is why it's not in my video. But yeah, so I'm happy that we have this officially released style guide. It's pretty complete. It's not fully complete. It is my hope that they make enough money from it, standards manual, and that people start coming forward who have other style guides so that they could do like a second edition or whatever, or a supplemental version that has the missing stuff. Because it, like in my opinion, it's pretty, as far as comic history and merchandising and marketing history, it's a pretty pivotal piece.
Also, you would think like DC would sort of want this as well because I mean, I always talk about this. Like you go to like Hot Topic or whatever, like you always see this imagery on coffee cups, on purses, on
Mhm.
costumes, on whatever. So I mean, like it's still relevant for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah, there are a lot of yeah, it's still I mean, I've got somewhere a coffee cup that has some of the 90s Jose Luis Garcia Lopez stuff
Oh yeah.
from when they redid it around the time of Batman Returns. Um yeah, because they did redo it because that, and at that point they added, for instance, the Wonder Woman they did was, it looks like he traced over Jill Thompson's Wonder Woman because that's who the artist was. Because it's got sort of Jill Thompson drew her with like really sort of curly hair, and
I like that style.
yeah, I liked her style too. I don't know that it fit sort of the more actiony Wonder Woman issues, but like um this quieter, softer ones, like she was perfect for. Like there was that issue on she did for Perez, the chalk drawings about Vanessa's friend unaliving herself, and that one was real, and her art was perfect for that one. She and Colleen Doran and I think Cynthia Martin, all three of them did art on one about Pandora and Pandora's box, and like the art on that was just. But when she took over after Perez left, and it was sort of the action scenes, like those, her style didn't quite work for those. Um, Sort of now in the modern age, the way it would work is she would do those issues, and then somebody else would do the action issues, and but DC at the time for their superhero stuff wasn't quite like that.
Yeah, I don't know her run all that well because it's kind of funny. Like she like after Perez left, it really did kind of feel like she faded in the background quite a bit, and it wasn't really until like Brian Boland started coming doing undoing covers and like you saw her probably like early 90s, but it would be like Deathstroke would show up where she'd get like a job as a fast foods counter.
Yeah,
It
Taco
just
Liz. Well, what
really, really
happened?
weird.
Well, Perez left, and then they basically, because Perez left fairly abruptly, um, because he was really unhappy with what they did to him in War of the Gods. So he kind of
Hmm.
quit and kind of had to just sort of quickly rush and finish everything. Um, and so what happened was Wonder Woman stopped being published for, it felt like forever at the time, but it was about 6 months. And 6 to 8 months without a regular series. And they dropped a Wonder Woman special, which was when Jill Thompson debuted as the normal artist. It was William Messner Loebs, who had just left The Flash. Um, and it started with like Wonder Woman having to team up with Deathstroke.
I think that's when I started like reading again because I was like, I kind of
Yeah.
fell off
And they did
very
it,
soon.
they launched it with like a double sized special that had a
Yeah, I was
cover
like,
by Jill Thompson. And then it basically concluded and the return of the ongoing series, and that's when the Boland um, issue started. And then William Messner Loebs quickly introduced the White Magician and had him send Wonder Woman to space, and she got lost in space for like 6 months, and which back then felt like forever.
mhm.
And she came back to Earth, and Themyscira was missing because Cersei had sent it away, and there was this big mob storyline, and it really felt like sort of like
Disconnected.
William Messner Loebs didn't really have a clear idea of who she was, and he didn't have necessarily a clear plan. And a lot of the supporting cast that Perez had introduced. He used them, but he also kind of slowly tried to replace them, and it didn't quite work. And then he brought them back, and then he had Jill Thompson for a while. Then Moder, I believe is how you say it. Lee Moder was the artist after Jill Thompson left. There was a really horrible stint of, is it Paris Collins? I think is his name. He's a great artist. He was a pretty. He did a lot of Blue Beetle art. I mean, Blue Devil. Perfect for Blue Devil, not so much Wonder Woman. And then Lee Moder came on for a little bit. And then sort of artists came around, and then they got, what is his name? The guy who helped Wonder Thong. Gosh, okay, Google time.
Like Diodato?
Let's see, Wonder Woman.
The artist?
I think that's it. DC created by. Let's see. Mike Diodato.
Yeah.
And
I started when that came around too because it was so outlandish.
yeah, they did the whole arc with Artemis as Wonder Woman, and which was really just a reinvention of the 2-issue arc from the 70s where Orana was Wonder Woman and died. Pretty much beat for beat, just strung out. And at times it felt almost like a parody of 90s comics, the way the villains were so over the top.
Oh, yeah.
But, and, you know, like that, the art with Diodato, despite the 90s-ness of it, it felt like Loeb's finally figured the character out. But ironically, it was around the time they were like, oh, we could get John Byrne on Wonder Woman. Let's do that. Look what he did for Superman.
It was a big deal. It made sense at the time because everyone's like, oh, yay. Like, I mean, plus two, he was coming
Yeah,
off
it
of
was a big,
She-Hulk.
and those issues sold really well. But those are rough issues. Like, and he's what finally just killed. I mean, Donna Troy, Wonder Girl. That's sort of what made her almost unusable for so long, was because of his attempt to completely drag her back into the Wonder Woman family by making her the original Wonder Girl from the old Impossible Tales, and then trying to make
So,
all of the origins true. It's just like, ugh.
like, please stop. He did give us Cassie Sands mark, but she was also likewise pretty rough early on.
Yeah, Cassie Sands mark under Byrne, not so much. It wasn't until, was it Peter David who did Young Justice?
I think so, yeah.
It was Young Justice that made her like a good character, and then the arcs after. It was Eric Luke came in after Byrne left, and it was really under Eric Luke, in my opinion, that and Peter David that made Cassie Sandsmark the character she is. And then of course Jeff Johns brought her into the Teen Titans reboot, and that sort of cemented it, I think, and made her sort of the character she is. Not that DC appreciates her and they keep trying to destroy her character.
Yeah, she's like all of them, not unscathed.
Let's see. I'm gonna quickly pop into chat. Sorry, guys. Yeah, exactly. That was the one. That was the only thing I really made sure I got every month, and it was just because there were no ads. 31 pages. Every page had like, at that point, 50 years of story in it. Like for like $1.25, that was a lot of comic book. Oh yeah, that's not confusing at all. Yeah, it's really depressing, frankly.
Mm-hmm.
Perfect, thank you. And the problem with John Byrne's run being such a mess is there was so much potential there. Like, what, and again, like, I think what was really missing there was like a co-writer to like really take those ideas and make them work. Like, if he had had someone to come in and polish it up, I think that run would be far better regarded now than it is. because it's a cool idea to have Hippolyta go back in time and yeah, well, one, do penance for all of the manipulations William Messner Loebs had her do. Again, Cassie Sandsmark took other author. If he had actually, basically the way I think it was Judd Winnick who was writing Green Lantern at the time, because Donna Troy was supporting cast there. Former Dark Star, her and Kyle were in a relationship, and the way it's relayed is Byrne basically came in and was like, "By the way, I'm taking Donna Troy back. She belongs to us. Wrap up your story." That's how it was set up.
In this relationship. Lovely.
Yeah, so it's like, she was still depowered. They had taken her Dark Star powers away, but in his art, Byrne couldn't even get the Dark Star costume right. So it's like he didn't even fully understand what the Dark Star. Like, there was some part where he had scripted where it's like, Wonder Girl, Troya, Dark Star, blah blah. It was like he thought Dark Star was like her superhero name, and it's like, no, Dark Star is like sort of Green Lantern, where it's like she is a Dark Star, but she's still Donna Troy.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that wasn't her superhero name. She's Donna Troy. Like, and I didn't even read all of the Dark Star issues. That was when I stopped reading comics when Wolfman took her powers away. It was like Dove died. They took Donna Troy's power away. Perez left Wonder Woman and Loeb had her in space with bad art. Justice League International had the breakdowns where Silver Sorceress was killed. And Dan Jurgens made it all sort of, it felt like Superman part. It was like another Superman comic under Jurgens. So I had just stopped reading comics. I was like, I'm good. And then started picking them up at the Kroger newsstand during the Messner Loeb's Artemis stuff, and then ended up rebuilding it through back issues. But so yeah, it was just, I don't know. Overall, I was never super impressed with, and it was really hard because despite the unevenness of a lot of old Wonder Woman comics, I always felt like that run right before the end of Crisis with Mishkin and, oh god, Cohen, the Amethyst people, I felt like they had done a really good job of sort of cleaning up all of the confusing back history, and they made Diana Prince interesting finally, made Etta Candy interesting.
Finally.
They, like Roy Thomas had done, he came in and he brought back Dr. Psycho. He created the original Silver Swan, Helen Alexandros, and sort of had helped, in my opinion, really get Wonder Woman going again. And I felt like Mishkin and Cohen came in and really tried to make it sort of as good as what was going on in other comics at DC at the time. Like the supporting characters had storylines. There was ongoing subplots for Wonder Woman herself. Like, they were trying to add some depth to Wonder Woman and Steve Trevor, and then Crisis, of course. And Perez just knocked it out of the park. The only problem I've ever had with Perez's run is by him making Diana like join DC like 5 to 10 years after everyone else. Because if he had just said it's sort of like Batman Year One, Donna Troy can still be Donna Troy.
Yeah, that was, and I feel like that's what like James Gunn's going to be doing with his new DC universe, where it's like, and also, but they're also doing a Teen Titans movie, and I'm like, where's Diana? Like, this
Yeah,
is some
right?
concerns here.
Yeah, I don't, I just, And I don't. I mean, like Wonder Woman 1984 was not the best movie, but it was definitely wasn't as bad as everyone acts like it was.
Yeah, it wasn't like the worst thing. I mean, like I was watching Electro again recently. Like, talk to me
Right.
when you watch Catwoman or what. Like, I mean, there's worse things out there. Like,
I think my problem
great
with Wonder Woman.
movies.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, any of the Ant-Man movies too. I mean, it's not like Marvel's got some, clean ledger in there.
Yeah. Well, I think for me with Wonder Woman 84, I think the real problem was and the fact that we have Max Lord and the Cheetah. I think it would have been better if they had just left Barbara Minerva as Barbara Minerva and then had her become the Cheetah in another movie.
Mhm.
Because one of the biggest disappointments is we got um, there wasn't a Cheetah transformation scene. She was just the Cheetah at some point,
Yeah, that
and
was really straight.
yeah, that was just like it wasn't even necessarily clear that it was the same person because there was no scene where she actually transformed.
And that's where like there's been a lot of problems lately with like uh, just and it happens a lot in streaming, but I mean like there's certain heroes' journeys, there's certain, script writing, storytelling beats you have to have, and it's
Yeah,
like they're not doing it.
yeah. It felt like it just felt like they tried to put too much into that movie, and
Mhm.
it left out some really key pivotal stuff. It's like we get the hint. Oh, like Maxwell Lord, this item that's given him these powers. It's created by the Duke of Deception, who's like Vent classic, you know, back to the Golden Age Wonder Woman villain. And what they were doing with him sounded like they had some really interesting plans. But of course, because everything else is crammed in, we don't even get sort of anything more than sort of like oh, the Duke of Deception, and it's like it wasn't enough.
Also, I mean,
Again,
like he was coming hot off of God, was that Final Crisis or Infinite Crisis where Wonder Woman snapped his neck? And I mean, like, but that's
yeah,
really their only real
right.
powerful, moment together. Like, he's not really one of her rogues yet, so it's like kind of a thing where it's like shoehorned in because of like some controversial hot thing that happened a few, years prior.
Well, and like that side of I do feel like the Maxwell Lord stuff they did well with it, and they made it work for the '80s setting. But the problem is there was just so much other stuff going on that it didn't get what it needed to like work. And it's disappointing because the first Wonder Woman movie is so good and so well done and so thought out that like
Mhm.
sort of that all of it just felt like screenwriting 101 failure, which I think is why people are probably a lot more critical of it than they should be, is because the first one was so good. But and like we definitely James Gunn definitely needs to get off his butt and get something going with Wonder Woman, because even if they recast, like, which is fine, I don't. Gadot did well, but she is very limited in her acting, and
Yeah.
that's okay. Nothing wrong with that. Not everyone is going to be Meryl Streep, and we definitely don't want to see Meryl Streep at 90 or however old she is in a Star Spangled bathing suit. I mean, some people might, and I love that for you, but the rest of us not so much.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Like, Catwoman is not as bad as it. If they had somehow not, if they had not called it Catwoman, if they had called it like,
Patience Price, Catwoman.
yeah, or like Leopard Lady or something, Panther. If they had made that a Panther movie from the Teen Titans, then that probably would have worked.
Yeah, it was just like, and that's the thing too. I mean, like, we came off of like when Michelle played the Catwoman, like everyone was kind of like waiting for that to come on. I mean, like, and it would have done gangbusters, like regardless of the quality of the movie. I mean, Michelle Pfeiffer
Yeah,
could have carried that on her own, and I'm sure
yeah.
like Michelle went to the premiere and was like halfway through, just grabbed a purse and was like, "I thought so," like it just walked off because like, oh my good.
I feel like though the Batman Returns is the reason we now get all of these superhero movies where it's like, oh, we have to have like two or three villains,
Yeah, and that
because
was
Batman Returns, even though it wasn't necessarily as big of a hit as the first one, for me, Batman Returns, I know people who love the Nolan verse are about to get mad, but Batman Returns is the perfect and best Batman movie,
I've watched it
hands
probably more
down.
than all the others like combined.
Like, I'm sorry if that upsets anyone, but like that's the best Batman movie that has ever been made. Um, because it's the perfect amount of sort of there's the campiness that you need slash want expect from Batman, but it's also dark. It's also gritty. It's also just fun. Like it's a fun movie.
Hmm.
It's like it's got everything that a super, in my opinion, a superhero movie should. There's a sense of humor to it. There's also the darkness, um, which is more relevant, I think, for Batman than some properties. But and it's just fun, and you've got Michelle Pfeiffer, camping it up, but also in a way where it's like it's not, like oh my god, she ruined it. It's like it's just the
Yeah, that moment
perfect
you're
amount.
like, hey, like it's instantly quotable. Like,
Hmm. Yeah, I was looking online for once the studio is set up for a sign that says "Hell here" or "Hello there,"
mhm.
because I might get that if this time next year we're all still alive and I'm still live streaming. There might be a "Hell here" background for some live streaming stuff. So I have a friend, Robbie, who like adores like his entire collection is Catwoman stuff.
I wish I had that kind of like commitment just to do one thing. Like, it's just because it's
Yeah.
a little out of I even found myself. I found there's some guy on Facebook who uh he does like visionaries action figures kind of thing, and they're like
My
they're
gosh.
cast and they're nice and they're like, and he did Galadriel and Virulina, and I was like, well, if I buy those, I have to get all the other ones again, and I'm like, no, I don't, no, I don't,
Mhm.
no, I don't. I just need those two. I can live happily with
Yeah.
just those two in a beautiful collection, and to put them somewhere, especially with God knows what else is coming down the pipeline soon, which I mean, this weekend we see.
I I am. It's funny because there's a time where I'm like Visionaries is just dead, but I have a feeling that if the Loyal Subjects mask line does well enough and Gem continues to do well, because the fact that all the first cases of that have gone out are all sold out. She's hard to find.
Yeah. And I mean,
She
like universally, like when that hit, well, I mean, first it was like Mattel versus Todd hit on Wednesday or Thursday, and then Mask hit
yeah.
very shortly afterwards. I mean, anyone who's trying to show off this weekend, like you had no chance. Like you had no chance. You get
Well,
a participation trophy for showing up,
yeah.
and those two kids won the
Well,
entire weekend out of the gate.
yeah, and Mattel also. Obviously, I have more Shira, He-Man sort of a vibe in my whole life, but I also felt like Mattel had a really, and it's not every, like they're saving most of it for Thursday when they do their big reveals for the year. But I think even with sort of the abbreviated bits of stuff they showed, like I was just like really impressed. Like Mattel, for a line that's allegedly dead, uh,
Yeah.
Mattel
No.
has really just continued to like, like the Thundercat stuff, like the interchangeability and the fact that it looks like there are going to be enough parts in each of those Thundercats for the Thundercats themselves to create the classic look plus their Motu look. Well, one,
Hmm.
like some of us will end up buying two because we're
Yeah.
losers. Um, but at the same time, just that swappability of it for those of us who do sort of kit bash customs, like that's like there are 40 different new characters we can create from our heads, and
Yep.
I'm living for it. So
And also too, I mean, like the especially Chitara, like I mean, there's so many parts of her that translate so well into, I mean, dozens of women from both He-Man and She-Ra.
yeah,
Like, I mean, her legs, her boobs, all this stuff. There's so much potential there.
yeah,
I mean, if you want to like do your own like kit bash or custom, like it's possible.
yeah. There's so much. Like I don't know, it's just cool, and it was interesting because McFarlane was there, and he showed the same old. Um,
Tired shit.
yeah, it's like the same. There are a few new things, and it's like it was just I don't know. Like I think the reason I end up so often being so sort of finger quote anti Todd is because like he has such potential with all of these lines that he does. And like it
Yeah.
always feels like it just falls short. Like superpowers, somebody was like, well, there's nothing he could do that would make you like it, right? And I'm like, actually, literally, he could have released, that's Toy Line's been going 3 years. Literally, he released Wonder Woman like same old 3, 4 times.
Yep. And she's not
If
even that
he
good.
had, if he had literally just done a Catwoman, and if he had done Catwoman like in her year one costume, he could have easily reused that for a cheetah. Um,
Yep.
So he could have got and a couple I mean, different head sculpts, of course, but literally that one Catwoman, he could have got Cheetah, the Debbie Domain Cheetah, um, Patience Price. Like he literally could have just, like yeah. And if somebody gave were to give us as DC fans of DC women had given us a Patience Price action figure, I want one. Like I'm not. Was it the best movie? God no. Was it a fun movie at times? No. But at the same time, if somebody wanted to give me a Holly Berry as Catwoman like action figure, I would buy that so quick.
There's so many movies I can't tell you much about them kind of thing, but it's like that movie was one where it was on TV. I had cable at the time. This is quite some time ago, but like it was on TV. I was like cripplingly hungover, and my roommate was like, "Oh, it's on TV. We're watching it." And I was like, "No," but I couldn't move, so I just sat there and like let it like wash over me for the full 2 hours. And I'm like, the day was memorable because I mean the amount of screaming at the screen we did.
There's so much.
So it was like
Yeah.
there's something there. There's some. It's like very like Rocky Horror kind of moment there where you're like, this is so terrible that like
Well, it's also kind of one of those movies where it's like it is that bad. It's campy. It's Rocky Horror, but it's also a thing where, for me, it was disappointing because sitting there as a comic book fan and as a writer, I'm like, if you had just tweaked this and if you had just fixed that, like this would have been an epic movie. Like there's a good movie somewhere, and especially, I mean, Holly Berry, um, Sharon Stone. Like you've got the basic outline of that movie, the basic components of it. There was a great movie that could have been had there that just somehow did not come to fruition. Like, and even if you were to call it Pantha or something, it still would kind of fall a little short. And it's too bad because again, I think that's why people are super hard on it because you can watch it and see where that good movie could have been if it had just
just
it
find the
really needed
water.
somebody who understood Catwoman and liked comic books to be in there to make that movie work.
I think
I
I
think
finally
we
do
were,
need crayons. I've never had
huh?
crayons, but because they're They keep falling out. Like they're cheap.
I'm gonna put that on my list. Smuggle color pencil set to Andrew.
I'll get you a Kinder Surprise, um, which are highly illegal in the States for some reason.
Right?
The chocolate's not very good anyway. You're not really missing out. But the toys were, once upon a time, very incredible. Also, there's cops coming for me now. Okay. So yeah, I mentioned Kinder Surprise and the cops are here. Gonna
Yeah.
do it.
Yeah, I'm liking those too. I some of the turtles, ironically with Turtles of Grayskull, the turtles themselves and He-Man are the least interesting characters, but like the Skeletor the Shredder was epic. The
Mhm.
April Sorceress, so good. Yeah, that's a good goal. Agree, Thanos. I don't care for them. I wish I did. Hello, Brick. A little late to the party, but Andrew and I are chugging along, and we'll probably be here for a while.
Yeah. Like Selena Kyle? Selena
Interesting,
Kyle?
maybe.
It's very Dick Tracy with like, Trisha Trueheart or what like I mean there's all those like kind of old pulpy names. Like it's
Yeah,
very that.
yeah, it definitely has sort of, back in the day when H.G. Peter and William Moulton Marston were writing um, Wonder Woman, how like all the villains had, there was a sorority girl who like was very jealous of everyone and was the reason the holiday girls kept getting into trouble that Wonder Woman had to save them from, and her name was Jel OC. And
What a name.
yeah, right. And then like Priscilla Rich, like the original Cheetah, she was a rich, prissy socialite who was very vain and self-centered. And Perez played homage to that with when he read with the Silver Swan, the Valerie Beauty one, right? Because her whole origin was she was hideously deformed and went through this really radical, which of course later turned out to be like her own ability to switch her DNA around. We won't talk about the ableism of her being hideously ugly and being able to transform herself. I'll save that for when I finally do a Silver Swan video. But she was Valerie Beauty, and her abusive husband was Hank Armbuster.
Jesus God.
So Perez literally sort of was paying homage to that, with the way he named those two characters,
Very
which
much
I
so.
approve. Like
I mean when your parents name you that, I feel like you're kind of
yeah.
pigeonholed into like white beater kind of
Well,
territory. So
in Holiday College, the dean who was always trying to ruin Wonder Woman and the Holiday Girls' fun was Dean Sourpuss.
I
So,
feel like I should legally change my name to that. Like
right. It's just, like,
goes to my office door being like don't even knock.
but Golden Age Comics it was all about sort of, like you were telling a story in 13 pages with like, square panels. There was it was, like 6 panels per page or whatever. And there's a lot of dialogue. And
Yep.
sometimes you just had to telegraph.
Although, I mean, frankly, like the 80s were pretty bad for that too sometimes, and 70s. Because I mean, I remember, I think it was a 90s comic. I think it was X-Men when I want to say Revanche, like the original Psylocke body swap, other, whatever that is. She came back to the X-Men, and there's like one scene where she was jumping down from a tree, talking to somebody, and I mean, there must have been like 5 different word balloons, like jam-packed full of stuff, and I'm like, how long was that drop from that tree? Like she like had to catch her breath and keep going.
Right.
other way down. Like, good lord,
I've
too
been
much
rereading. Oh, sorry.
talking.
I've been rereading Wolfman Perez, and it's literally it's like not only is Perez a master, but he managed to get his art in between all the word balloons.
Yep.
I got to meet Marv Wolfman at he came to Portland Comic Con one year, and I got him to sign a facsimile cover of Titans 1. And I have to say that was a highlight. And he was sitting right next to Colleen Doran, and then I got her to sign stuff. And my friend was with me, and he was like hemming and hawing, and I just, because he's like, well, I don't know. I'm like, just fucking buy the poster. It was a Blade cover, a Spider-Man Blade, and he likes Spider-Man and Blade. I was like, just buy it. I'm like, these are the people who made our childhoods great. Like, and Wolfman just kind of chuckled, and he's like, oh, thank you. He's like, you don't know that's really cool to hear. I'm like, it's true. Like, some of us had really miserable childhoods, except for you, Mr. Wolfman and Ms. Doran.
Yep.
And it was I don't know, it was funny. But he's been really nice, and like, because it's Portland and everyone was sort of chasing the celebrity side of it, we got to sit and talk a little bit with them, and it was before Perez had died, of course, but it was just, I don't know, it was really cool, like, because Wolfman very much was just like, he loved comic books growing up, and he got to write and he wrote some episodes of Gem, of course.
Mm-hmm.
And Colleen Doran started out at 16 in the industry, and as a Legion of Superheroes fan, that was her favorite comic. Kurt Swan was one of her influences, but when she started trying to break into the industry, she would take her art, and it was her hand-drawn art, but she colored it herself with colored pencils. And she would tell the story. Used to tell the story that when her whole plan was she was gonna pencil, ink, and then color all of her own art, and that she was gonna do it all with colored pencils.
Good lord.
And I just laugh because it's like, ooh, girl. I mean, she of course laughs about it too, but it's like, and based on what I do here, like I share in our retro cavalcade chat, like it take even on stuff I'm not filming, it takes, like I can, if I get 4 to 6 pages done in a day, like that's a good day. It also has to be simple as hell, like pictures though.
Like this. Yeah, I mean that's the thing. I mean, even like any YouTube thing. I mean, that's one of the reasons I didn't want to do it, and also one of the things that like it does feel like sort of a bit of a part-time job is that like the editing, the research, the resource gathering, all of it. It's like a shocking amount of time.
Let's see. Cobb is here. Hello, Cobb. Dave's Dimension is here. Really quick, for those who may have missed it, Friday night I was on a stream with Dave's Dimension and Dre. Great time talking about old TV shows and whether or not they should be remade. If you want to be on there with Dave and Dre, reach out to them because they are looking for guests. Brick will be there next Friday talking Japanese comics that don't have tentacles. Is it Sentai? Sentai, right? Yeah, Sentai.
What's the point?
ElfQuest was colored with markers, and because I love Colleen Doran, ElfQuest and all of those people are dead to me. All right. And if you ever wonder why, Google Colleen Doran very bad publishers and get the whole story. Hello, Oz. Lovely to see you. See, I knew it wasn't the tentacle one, but I don't even want to say the tentacle one out loud because I don't know what that would do to the algorithm or what kind of people would show up.
Yeah, fair enough. I did love. I think I probably talked the story before, but like where I was from the deep country, and so we had a general store or gas station nearby, and there was like some video rentals there, and they always brought in like, and this is like early '80s. They brought in like some like anime even back then that was dubbed. But I mean, like my parents just said like cool cartoon, give it to Andrew. And I mean, some of the
Oh
things I watched were a little
my
extreme.
god. Oh my god. How could this go
Like
wrong?
six, what? Like I'm used to like He-Man and She-Ra, and I was like, holy crap!
Yeah, the first time I was an adult, thankfully, the first time I saw anything that had tentacles in it. And I was just like, what is, oh my God, what? And I was coming off of let's see, I had been to a couple raves that weekend. So that's all I need to say about what my mindset probably was.
Your serotonin levels were a little off.
Yeah, whip it real good with bad serotonin levels. And I'm going to just tell you, when your serotonin is low and you're having an existential crisis at 23 of your own devising because you overdid it at 3 to 4 different raves, that's not
Yep.
the thing you need to be sitting there watching. I'm just going to say it. Like, I'm just,
No,
no,
no.
no.
There's not much you can really do at that
Yeah,
stage.
and it's kind of like you mentioned with the Catwoman. You just kind of sit there and you're like, "What is happening?" Luckily, it was
Like,
only
what?
like 30 minutes. It felt like so much longer.
Mm.
And the person that was, because I was at somebody's house, um, on their couch, and they're like, "Oh, we got this movie. Let's watch it." And I'm just like, "Oh my god, what?" And he was just kind of like, "That's not what I was expecting." I'm like, "What were you expecting? Like, what?" Not
I would
that.
go through
Somebody. Oh, sorry.
something like that. I did that with Sam. I think it was after a rave. I remember watching Brazil from 1983 or '84, which is super like surrealist,
Yeah.
very
Yeah. Yeah.
depressing, like very 1984 in its own way, kind of thing. So we're watching that, being like, this is there's too much and too much going on
Yeah.
here.
That is not, yeah, appropriate.
A little advanced for what I was dealing with at the time.
Even fully sober with all of your serotonin, Brazil is not. Um, you need to be in a
Yeah,
really specific space.
yeah, yeah. It's kind of like a Donnie Darko kind of moment.
Well, it's like I'm a big fan of David Lynch, but I've never watched all of Mulholland Drive because I had um,
Mm.
taken mushrooms of some sort. And my then person I was with, he was all like, "We should watch this movie," and I'm like, "What is it?" He's like, "You'll love it. You love David Lynch, right?" And I'm like, "I do," but and then everything kicked in, and oh my god. So anyway, I got stuck in the bathroom that night, but that's okay because getting stuck in the bathroom was preferable to being fully subjected to Mulholland Drive in that mind state. Much better to
Yeah, I mean,
sit there for 2 hours and watch the toilet flush and then have to subject yourself to David Lynch in that mindset. So I've never watched it because I don't want the flashback that I assume the like. I don't have. I live too busy of a life to get stuck in a bathroom again watching a toilet flush for 2 hours. So
you haven't lived unless you've done that. It's a Legend of the Horror-Feed.
interesting.
There's a lot going on there.
Yeah, there's a lot to absorb. But yeah, so anyway, this is what happens, guys, when it's me and Andrew. You never the places you'll go.
Oh, the tragic memories you'll see.
Right? It's like Seuss on acid. So
It's also very like very indicative of Gen X. Like, where were your parents? Who knows?
right. My mom was in the other room. She was also tripping. Whatever. Stop.
Whatever. I learned it from watching you. it. I'm not doing like any shading whatsoever today. I'm
Oh
like
no.
just powering through because this is very like primary colors,
Yeah, no, this one is, and it's a smaller one, so it's harder to do a lot of shading on this without actually losing. It's the only disadvantage to some of these pages from the style guide is that converting them into, I mean, again, like just basic coloring usually will work. But for somebody like me who has to be all fancy about it, it kind of, it's hard because it's like there's not a lot of actual shading you can do. Just at the size that some, like it'll be easier with Wonder Woman and Black Canary because there's larger.
Yep.
But Donna is so tiny back there that I was just like, this is as good as it gets, peeps. But these are perfect for live streams with people because they go a little faster. And yes, I am Googling the Batgirl 1980s costume because I filmed last night a Batgirl for the animated series costume.
Which is largely the same.
Yeah,
Although I
it's
mean,
a
back
lot different.
the costume for a bit, so like,
Well, she doesn't have as much. The animated series Batgirl, other than the belt and the bat, the rest of it's all that same blue of her cape. Because she has those little, like, sort of floppy half boot things and her gloves, and it's all blue. But this, her 80s costume, it's all yellow, or it's basically just Batman's costume, but for girls. So,
that was the kind of real. I didn't really pay attention to that until trying to find like a Kenner Batgirl figure for the animated series because they made like a few,
yeah.
but none of them are actually just that. Like there's some
Yeah.
that are close, but like this one has yellow boots or this one's got like some other nonsense kind of
Well,
thing.
and the
But I mean
first
like
one was the wind strike, so she wasn't even a proper Batgirl. It was
like white
weird,
and black.
funky. Yep.
Yeah, I remember
And
seeing that. And I was like, I waited this long for that. I was
yeah,
so betrayed.
I was really unhappy, but I bought it because it was Kenner. It's like we're lucky we got a Batgirl.
Yeah, which is kind of funny too, though, because I mean they did do like I think Catwoman was wave one, and then Poison
Hmm.
Ivy was pretty quick on her, and then
Well, they did a lot of the villain. Like they did Catwoman and Poison Ivy, and that was it for the female villains. We never got like a Talia al Ghul until much later, like once
yeah,
sort
she.
of the adult collector thing took off.
Hmm.
But I mean, it's in my humble opinion, it's because of Batman and Star Wars that Kenner finally, under Hasbro at least, even before they had started sort of at the same time in the mid 80s, where all of a sudden nobody wanted to make the women characters. But I think because of Power of the Force 2 and Batman Returns, no, I'm sorry. Yeah, Batman Returns, but also Batman and Robin. Like, there was no choice. There was no way to do toys for Batman and Robin without doing Batgirl and Poison Ivy.
Yeah, and the thing is too, like I mean, the adult collectibles market was sort of like I mean, again, because of like partially because of Todd, big help there, but also like Playmate Star Trek. I mean, like they knew what was up. Like they knew their audience
Yeah,
was not kids, even though like there was sort of a kid style and
yeah,
sensibility to it. I mean, it was like they did the whole like individually numbered on their feet. Like it was built for collectibles.
yeah,
Collectibles. And they went hard on character selection. Like they did not care
yeah,
about nothing. They were just like, "You want Troy? Here you go."
yeah. Well, and also, oh, never mind, it's gone. We're at that stage of the day, Quill. I was there and then it was gone. Wait,
You're like,
Playmates, Star Trek, Ladies. No,
Tom
it's just
Angela? I don't know.
sorry, guys. Whatever deep thought I had is gone.
Yeah,
I bet
another.
it was really good too.
I'm sure it's really funny.
I was in the world peace would have happened from this comment, and it's gone. It's all my fault.
Yeah, there's more than a few times where we're waking up from a dream and I'm all like, I wrote the most incredible script in a dream kind of thing. I woke up, I'm like, write it down as fast as possible. And then it made no sense. And I'm like, well, there goes my Oscar.
So much for that. Oh, I can't talk about that dream on the internet. And it'd be, well, I could, but it's not that kind of channel. It just reminded me of this time I had a dream. I didn't know who Brett Favre was until that dream. Of course, he's a douche, but it makes sense based on where I was at that point in my life. In fact, it shouldn't have been a surprise when he came out as a douche that he was a douche because of that dream. Like, oh, Brett Favre, where did our love go wrong? I bet his middle name is probably Carl.
Or like Brody or something.
Oh my God, Brett Brody.
Brody with like two eyes and an E or something.
Brett Brent.
Braun. Bored.
Okay, we have to figure this out now, guys. Sorry, this is a tangent, but whatever. I blame the cough syrup. Brett Favre. Oh my God. Oh, you are never going to guess his middle name.
Corey.
Lorenzo.
Really?
Yeah, Lorenzo.
Did not strike me.
Yeah, no, I literally was like, Lorenzo. Let's see what happened. And he's also too old for his mom to have like named him after Lorenzo Lamas from Falcon Crest. So
I mean, that's my middle name, so like, that's like, yeah, one of my nephews is named after Noah Wiley from
ER.
ER. And I mean, he knows, but like all his friends are like, what? What?
It's his name Noah or Wiley.
Noah.
Okay. That's not bad though. I mean, that's one of those names where it's like there are many different places it could be from. You know, technically it's like biblical almost.
I guess, yeah.
So it's like an old name. So it's not like these poor people who have been named like well, none of those people watch this. But Santa Barbara, the soap opera that was on in the 80s, they had a character named Laken. Lakye Laken was the character's name. And within 2 to 3 years of that, in the part of the country I lived in, there were suddenly like 30 Lakens.
Oh, God.
But it was Lakyn or Lakynnne. Like, people were like, we need this name to be super unique. Let's put extra letters that don't actually need to be there in it. That's special.
There's a lot of that going on with like, McNavy and like it's always.
I briefly did improv, and the one character I was workshopping was Brittany with 2 I's and an extra Y, but the Y is not where you would think it should be.
Oh, you're ahead of your time.
Right?
Mess.
It's like literally. The Y is never where you think it should be. She was from the West Side, so she was like, I'm from the West Side, either.
Like,
Yeah.
everything with little lips at the end of it.
No.
I'll
pop a cap in your butt, Hawks. Because she didn't cuss. So, anyway. I wonder whatever happened to her. She's probably married somewhere with the sign that says Eat, Pray, Love.
Love with a question.
There's like a question mark at the end. Oh, Brittany. With 2 I's and a Y. An extra Y where you wouldn't expect it.
So many Y's.
So many Y's. Exactly. That was part of the joke. So many Y's.
Why anything?
Yeah, right. It was probably too deep for myself at the time. Interesting how many redheads DC has.
Yeah, I was gonna say like you like associate like brunettes with them, like with like Wonder Woman and Zatanna, Lana,
Yeah,
not Lana, Lois.
Lois.
What else is there? At moment, Lana.
Well, Lana was played by Annette O'Toole in Superman the movie. I think was it the third or the fourth one? No, it was the third one. And Annette O'Toole does have red hair, so um, which the
No,
comic book does too, doesn't she? Or I wonder if she was always a redhead.
usually,
Or
but maybe it's also one of those things where you can like it always kind of adapt. It's sort of like no eye color is. It's usually violet now, just because of the animated series, but like
okay,
not always.
okay, yeah, she was always a redhead. So because
She
I'm
was the
looking
share of
at
lost.
some Kurt Schaffenberger Earth One art from like the 50s or 60s, and yep, there we go. Oh, she's have a little L like Laverne on her shirt. Good figure.
Oh, Lana, you're no one's favorite.
Yeah. Yeah, she was always such a they have tried so hard to make her like a cool character, and it just doesn't ever seem to land.
No, I mean even currently, like she and I guess she and Lois are Superwoman technically. Um,
Oh yeah, there was that.
like they sort of like the red and blue Superwomen-ish thing, but she's still one of the red ones. I don't know. Like it's just it's Superman now.
Oh, CJ. That's a good
CJ.
one. Just when you thought we were the pettiest, snarkiest, Andrew, CJ just showed us
Intelliger has emerged.
girl. Anyway, yes. So anyway, Lana is always the bridesmaid, never the bride.
Yeah. Although, I mean, I do love, I don't know if most people here probably should subscribe to Casual Comics, where she does a lot of Lois Lane gets married. Like, she has a lot of
Oh,
commentary on
I love Sasha's content.
the Lois gets married playlist. I mean, it's long. It's very long, and
I
it's
love.
bonkers.
Oh, anytime one of Sasha's like one of her Lois Lane videos hits that like is like everything drops so that I can watch her go off on Lois. Like, but
Yeah, she,
I think the reason it works though is because she clearly likes Lois Lane as a character and clearly enjoys the stories. So I think
it's
that's
said with,
part of it, you know.
but I mean, yeah, Lois is very extra from the Silver Age, and the thing is, like, her comic was huge, like one of the
Yeah.
best-selling comics at the time, and it's kind of just shocking now because you look back at the covers and you're like, what the hell?
I have to admit though, I kind of miss old style comic cover. I know like there's amazing art that happens on them, but I'm gonna be really frank. There's a phase even of Wonder Woman where like when Adam Hughes was doing the covers, and I bought the same back issue like 3 times, not realizing I already had it because it was so the same. I really sort of miss how unique covers used to be. Whereas like
Oh, yeah.
really clear that you did not own that and you needed to see, you know, somebody I was doing research and I ended up on Reddit, which, you know, your mileage will vary, but overall I'm not impressed with Reddit. But somebody was like, they spoiled the entire comic, and it's like back in the day, bitch, you had to spoil the whole comic so people would read to see what got you to that point.
Yeah.
Like,
Also, I mean, a lot of it was clickbait. Like they would sort of say, like, here's the hook of the
yeah,
story. It was more of a matter of like how they got out of it.
yeah.
Um,
How do you get to this point? How do you get out of it? What crazy hijinks led to this point where Lois is throwing herself off a cliff hoping Superman notices?
yeah, which happens more and more as time goes on.
It's funny because I never thought about it until Sasha's videos where it's like Literally every other issue, Lois is like, I'm going to throw myself off a building so that Superman will show up.
And it's like, what if he was in space? You're like, oops.
It's just so like overly attached girlfriend.
But then also, it didn't really seem like they liked each other or were like in a relationship. So it's also
Well,
like,
that is a weird, but again, that's yeah, it was the 50s and 60s. That is how kind of relationships worked. You did not like each other. You were just like, okay, I guess we should get married and reproduce. Congrats.
here we go. Well, that's also the funny thing. Like, I mean, the code sort of was targeted Batman and Robin, and they're like, well, they're gay or whatever. There's more things than gay wrong with their relationship, but
Right.
they're gay.
And the
Um,
same with Wonder Woman. Like,
but then yeah, like with Bat, like they were like, okay, we'll create the first Batwoman and Batgirl to be girlfriend characters for Batman and Robin, but all they did was just make them look more gay because they were like, you girls, we don't want anything to do with you, and you're like, this is the thing that's supposed to cure the rumors.
oh, poor Betty Kane.
There was
I liked the Perez redo of her post crisis as Flamebird, and where they kind of made her like a sort of like a groupie almost, and like it was so fun. And it's just like nobody, again, Jeff Johns for a while there was doing some good. He almost made her work in that Beast Boy miniseries, but I don't know. It's weird to me. Like, again, DC has a lot of cool characters that just sort of. It's like, and I don't even want to say it's that they don't know what to do with them. It's like they hire writers who don't know what to do with them. And they're like, I always take it as a bad sign when a writer comes onto a comic and suddenly there's an entirely new supporting cast. This happens to Wonder Woman a lot. Like, I know that some people like, is it Drew Rucka? Let me see.
oh, Greg Rucka? Yeah, Greg Rucka did Wonder Woman for a while. His
Yeah,
was
Greg Rucka, that's right.
very different.
And he shows up and like in his first issue, he introduces Veronica Cale, who is Wonder Woman's brand new arch nemesis. It's like,
But
who
like,
the fuck is this bitch? Like, Wonder Woman has 1,000 characters.
yeah, and also she was like the poor man's Lex Luthor. So you're like, what are we doing here?
Well, and like, and then her motivation is like, Wonder Woman is more successful and pretty, and which is, completely believable for like a rich, affluent white woman. But like, I read comic books to escape those bitches. Like, I don't need that to be the main villain. Like, give me where the hell is like Sylvia Cyber? Like, well, and then he brings her back as a partner of Veronica Cale and turns her into some AI nonsense. It's like, no, I need the Dr. Cyber, who is like a James Bond international villainous on level with Octopussy, who gets
Yeah,
hot coals thrown into her face and she puts on an iron mask and forever wants to destroy Wonder Woman and steal her face. Like, that's what I want. I need that over the topness in my like. I don't need some like over attached Karen who has like a lash business. Wonder Woman didn't, like, I feel like some of these, like, I know Wonder Woman is an influencer now, and her arch nemesis is a company she wouldn't do a collab with. It's like, I don't. And that's never really
it,
what comic books did. Like, they never made it that mundane.
well, I mean, that's what they tried to do with that. Like, what was it Adrian Palicki? That
Mm-hmm.
TV pilot that thankfully didn't get
Agreed.
off the ground. It's out there. It's on YouTube. It's like
Yeah, it's bad.
you should watch it. It's bad, but like, but they also tried to do like a lot of that with her, where she was sort of like a businesswoman.
It's
And
just,
she was like, it was weird. I couldn't even describe like what the show was about. It was just a lot of weirdness kind of thrown at you.
I will say that's one thing I liked about the DCU was that she worked at the museum and like that's the sort of superhero alter ego job that I'm invested in. Like, it's preposterous, it's ridiculous. It opens the door to adventure. Like,
Yeah.
I don't want to read. Peter Parker is a photographer for a newspaper. It doesn't work now. But at the same time, it's like that's the sort of job that you give a superhero because it's kind of over the top, but it creates opportunity. It's like and this is I think why the Taco Wiz thing didn't work for Wonder Woman because it's like I was making tacos, was suddenly the Royal Flush Gang tried to rob the Taco Wiz, and it's just like nobody wants to read that.
No. When it
We
becomes
need
like too mundane.
global. Oh, oh, oh. Well, that's good.
Yeah. It's a little too super family now.
See, yeah, and the Christian Cruac, the problem with it is like the way they handled the Lana thing, and that was like, ugh. And the problem is too many people use it as the dialogue for like the fact that Lana Lang isn't as white as she used to be. Whatever. Yep,
It's
Taco
all.
Wiz. It was Taco Wiz. Which like that's a very generic. What is a Big Belly Burger that's also in the DCU?
Yeah, with Ditto. Biggest fan.
And then Sand Dollar Coffee. Like I like in universe substitutes for real world. Like people are like, I don't understand why why do we have Gotham and Metropolis and Gateway City? It's like because I am so sick and tired of reading stories set in New York City.
Yeah.
Like give us some fictional cities where it's like there can be real stakes because you can't really do. I mean, I know Marvel has been doing it for years, but it's, in my humble opinion, a little unrealistic that all of these superheroes live in New York. There's all this constant destruction of the city. But if you live in New York, there's no constant destruction of the city. Like, I don't know. It just,
Yeah. People still live there, and you're like, why? It's constantly under attack.
yeah, it's like it, for me, doesn't make as much sense. Like when the Teen
Also,
Titans were there, I think it was, yeah, they're on an island in the middle of the Hudson Bay or whatever. Like, it was plausible enough that it was overlookable, but I like fictional I mean like they were able to destroy Coast City and Green Lantern for that reason because it's not a real city. So
mhm. The only problem is that like these other cities do still exist, and that's the problem where like you do still have New York and Boston and all that, but meanwhile there's like Gotham, Metropolis, Bloodhaven, like there's so many like all like smushed up against each other too, and you're like, and luckily like everyone's still kind of like around, so you can sort of travel to different cities pretty quickly, but
yeah.
you're also like, who's on the West Coast? Like who's taking
Well
care
yeah,
of like
that is the one thing I like about Gateway City and Coast City is they're on the West Coast.
representation?
But I miss like Midway City and what is it? Is it Midway City that Hawkman and Hawkwoman live in? I think
I
it
think
is.
so.
Not far from Central City and which everyone's like, they mean Chicago. It's like, no, they don't. They mean Midway City. Shut up. Enjoy it. Midway City is on a different lake than Chicago. Stop being such a twat.
Another huge like
Right? I don't know. Just stop ruining fun. Like, it doesn't need to be real. That's one
no.
thing I dislike is when people are like, that's not realistic. That's not how it worked. That's not scientific. It's like, I'm not reading comic books because I want science. Like I
No,
want to believe a man can fly, and if that means we have some made up pseudoscience, like made up, there's more concern about having real science in comic books right now than in the real world, and that's a problem, people.
I mean, it's even kind of like the Star Trek versus Star Wars sort of thing, where like Star Trek mostly tries to stick with science. I mean, they have to make some leaps um, for warp travel and whatnot, but like the Star Wars, I mean, anytime anybody says like, "Oh, that's not scientific," I mean, like that's not what this is about. Like that you can breathe in space sometimes, just because the plot requires it. Like there's no It doesn't even make sense.
It's in a galaxy far, far away. Stop trying to dictate other people's space, people. In a
You
galaxy
don't know
far, far
physical,
away, they have atmosphere in space. Stop it. You've never been to that galaxy. Stop it.
and you never will.
Nobody wants
No,
you
that
there. Boba Fett will never acknowledge your existence. Stop trying.
so he's overrated. Stop trying to make him cool.
Right. He screamed like a little girl when he flew into the giant sand vagina. Stop it.
He did nothing important in the movies. Stop it.
Right. Stop. It's okay that you love him and you've made up headcanon, but stop making the rest of us appreciate your side character.
Yep. Mon Mothma is more my hero than Boba Fett ever will be.
I need more Zuckus and Forlom people. Like,
True.
there's something happening there with Space, Bert, and Ernie that I feel like we're missing out on.
There's some wacky hijinks happening, and they're like, you'll never know.
I feel like there's an entire like Star Wars version of Seinfeld happening with Zuckus and Forlom. Like Zuckus is invited over the head of the bounty hunters guild, but Forlom accidentally overcooked the turkey, and now the wacky neighbor won't go away. Like there's stuff. There's a whole story we could get there.
There's a whole Disney Plus series just waiting to happen. They'll make anything.
Quip, hello Quip. Oh, Quip is here, and it's a good time this Thursday, everyone. Myself, Andrew, Quip, and Derek Hoover will be convening the cavalcade to talk about like some Mattel stuff. So join us.
Toy Fair things because there's some news.
There's so much toy news that like how can you not?
You need to digest it all. That was the funny thing too yesterday, like just getting up and flipping on the phone and then just getting like the deluge of like photos jumping in. I'm like, this is a lot to absorb all at once.
Well, it's funny. Stanley Eberhardt was in one of the stream, like a couple of the streams. He's like, "Why is nobody talking about classified?" It's like because like there's so much else to talk about. Classified, like we've got months of toy talk here. Like,
Yeah. Also, I mean, like we kind of knew all that stuff anyway, so it's not like it was that
I
big
will
deal.
say because he asked that though, we looked it up, and I am going to say the crystal ball is fire.
It is actually. I don't love the character, but like the way you do. But it looks good.
I don't think anybody loves the character the way I do, and I'm okay with that. I just,
Everyone's got
we
their.
all have our weird character from some franchise that we love.
I was disappointed because I did still have hope that like Super 7 will continue their Ultimates G.I. Joe because that
Mhm.
was my jam. And I do have like a good shelf happening with them, but there's a few characters that still like Shipwreck or Tomac from Deimos, but alas no.
Well, there were. Did he actively say that the line was dead, or did
No, but I
he?
harassed them on Comic Con, so I mean we'll see.
Yeah, but that's the one thing I will say about Brian Flynn is like he won't talk about shit, and then all of a sudden, like 17 new figures have been announced, and you need to pre-order them this minute. So
Yeah, Joe. Um,
don't give up hope.
yeah, I feel like Transformers I kind of gave up on, but like yeah, the Joes. I mean, it was a great line. Like they looked great.
Yeah.
And I would certainly still buy more, but we shall see. I think he's kind of really hard into the Reaction Plus, they're calling it now,
Yeah.
like the
Right.
O-ring
The
style figures,
O-ring. I
which
need
are
to
also
pick.
fun. I mean, they made
I
like,
need to pick a couple of those up.
yeah, I got the Duke and Cobra Commander so far, and they're fun. I mean, it's very just cartoony old Joe's kind of thing, but they're fun.
Yeah. All right. There we go. Mhm. All right. I just finished. How are you doing?
I'm almost done. I'm just like doing some background stuff, but
Excellent. So how are you feeling?
Let's see here.
We're an hour and 40 minutes in, so we're almost to the end anyway. So we made it, Andrew. We
We
almost
did
made
it.
it. You did it.
Like it's more drug medication than.
Thank you, Dayquil. No matter what I say about you, Dayquil, our love shall always triumphant.
You're the one friend that asked, but I love you when I need you.
If they ever do a version of the Notebook about my life, it will be me and a bottle of Dayquil.
Mhm.
Sorry, Matt. Sorry. You've done so much for me, but Dayquil. No, I'm just kidding.
Like I know.
He's out in the garage right now putting shelves together for my office.
What I mentioned.
I know, right? Well, somebody's got to do it.
You're like, sure as hell ain't me.
It's not me. No, I will help. I'll go out there and help, but he's the muscle. I mean, he used to play hockey, so there you go. Oh wait.
Skill honed.
I
Oh, yeah.
okay. Hot girl, yes. Supergirl, I want to be, but it's such a curious, specific choice of a cover I have no investment in. Um, I will say I'm more interested in now because some dude was like, she doesn't look young enough. I'm like,
Nice.
and I just had a moment where I'm like, what? And I'm like, oh, you're one of the dudes who are also sad when they redid the Space Jam movie and the girl bunny wasn't sexy enough anymore. So
Oh yeah, like Lola Bunny or the Green M&M. Like
I
she's not,
literally, some dude was like, she's not sexy anymore. That's woke. I'm like, it's literally, she's an underage rabbit character cartoon. Like,
calm
they've made her
down.
more appropriate for children. Stop making it weird, guys.
He's like, what are you saying exactly? Like, please fill it out because I'd love to hear.
Like, her boobs are no longer. I don't know. I was like, well, what do you mean? He's like, her boobs are tiny now and she's all covered up. I'm like, she's an underage rabbit character.
Yeah,
It's just not right. They're ruining. I'm like, did they remove your old VHS copy of Space Jam and your old Lola content, your old stuff? He's like, no. I'm like, you still have her.
I will say about these two figures though, it's funny where I watched Toy Shiz's video, his walkthrough of McFarlane, and sort of like he was talking to them, and they were kind of going like, well, if we'll see once the paint dries, we'll see if we can actually like retain like Batman 66, this new Super Friends line,
Yeah,
and superpowers. And I was like, please stop. Like, I mean, I feel like if they continued Batman 66 and the Super Friends line, I mean, go for it. But like, get superpowers out of their hands like immediately.
yeah,
But these two figures, it was funny where last night they, on McFarlane's Instagram stories, they put up both those figures back to back, and I was like, now you like the ladies? Like, do you?
well, I mean,
Um,
but that's part of the problem with the McFarlane thing. Like, he's pretty consistently released women in the other scales. The problem is like the lack of them in superpowers, which is yeah. And somebody tried to tell me one time, well, they only had Wonder Woman in the old line. It's like,
it
yeah,
doesn't matter.
and your point, they only have 3 years of figures. He's already made more figures than the vintage line did, and if year four had happened, we would have got a Supergirl. And if you listen to Tom Arts, we would have got a Catwoman. Don't listen to Tom Arts, but we all know that McFarlane probably does because they used to love him back in the day. But it's like your whole hypothesis here is that because there was only one in the old one, it's like, no, that's not how these revival lines work. Stop trying to make fetch happen.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, well, like they do look good. I don't generally like and I feel bad. I was fully like gloating when, Mattel took over. And there were some people that were like, I do actually like these, at least the multiverse figures.
Hmm.
And I feel kind of bad for them, but like, I don't like the diaper. I don't like all the weird, like overlays. I don't like the proportions. Like, it's just nothing ever spoke to me about the line. But I mean, these two specifically, I think especially Supergirl, she looks great because I love that book. And she looks like bang on to it.
Um, Alex, I'm just gonna say we all know who was. It's like, and it's, yeah. Some of them I'm fine. Some of them have very elaborate suits and work cool for them, but it's never those people that are complaining online about this sort of stuff.
Yeah.
Definitely Stanley. Right. I mean, like, that's, I think the problem is like, yeah, and I think about 50% of it goes back to that statement McFarlane made about, oh, little boys who play with girl action figures turn into sociopaths or whatever. So he gives us women in the lines that are more geared toward adult collectors because in his mind, kids are buying superpowers, and like maybe people are buying superpowers for kids, but like
I don't think so.
superpowers
Like,
by its definition is an adult collector line because it's in theory an extension of a line we all had and loved as kids. So anyway, shut up, Todd. My hopes are that they I I know this angers people what I'm about to say, but screw it. I want them to go Kenner superpowers, even if it's not like a superpowers line. I want them to launch the line with 12 solid figures. Whatever scale they want, I don't care. Whatever they're gonna focus on. I want Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, Green Lantern, whichever one. Any Green Lantern, in my opinion, is iconic, but it needs to be Hal or John because those are the true iconic ones that everyone remembers because of superpowers and Justice League. Um, Barry Allen Flash, Aquaman, who has hands, two hands. Hook Aquaman is not iconic. He's well remembered. He was popular. He lasted. He's not iconic. Um, Robin, Super Friends. Um, and then like this is where I need them to like drop Black Canary in there, or Zatanna, or Supergirl, or
exactly.
somebody. There needs to be one of the icon. There are many iconic DC women,
Or
and
Lois Lane.
then four villains. Like, and that's what you launch with. And the
Yeah.
sculpts all need to be on. They all need to look like Jose Luis Garcia Lopez style guide stuff for your first 12 figures. And then after that, you start building out factions. You've got Robin, so you give us some Teen Titans. You've got Superman, so you can start building out Superman villains. You can start building out Superman variants, but we need to start with an iconic version of each character in classic style guide. And then you
Yeah.
build out from that.
That's always been the through line. I think that's why everyone sort of like goes back to superpowers so hard is that it was the style guide figures kind of thing. So I mean, if someone actually made like 6 or 7 inch line based off the style guide, that would be the line. And again, you can always
What?
bring in newer characters
Yeah.
in that style. Like you can bring in all the Batgirls, all the Robins, all the Wonder Girls. Like you can
I
keep
mean, and
adding.
Todd just illustrated the point. Like I said, an iconic woman and named like two, and he's got four iconic women there, and two of them are the ones I mentioned, but the other two are not. But still iconic and would make great action figures. Like
Yeah.
that's what
I
we're
mean,
dealing with.
Harley's marketing juggernaut. I mean, she sells as well, if not better, than Superman and Wonder Woman. So like,
Harley Quinn has sort of like become Wolverine, where like she's got fans who don't read comic books, who only know her from like the cartoons or from the movie, or she's just an iconic character. Again, Wonder Woman's like that too. There are so many people who love Wonder Woman who have never read a Wonder Woman comic.
mhm.
Superman, Bat, etc. They've seen the movies, they've, like watched a cartoon, but they just some characters are bigger than having a comic book. And I think Harley Quinn has finally reached that point. So anyway.
Yeah, I mean, there's high hopes for Mattel, and I mean, I hope they do. I hope they do crossovers with He-Man. I hope they do
Yep.
weird replica stuff or like cosplay stuff for the kids. I hope they do more doll lines for girls. Like again, you always want the next generation to be like aware of your products. So like
There
you
needs
you
to
do
be
need
and this is a good time because 40 years of She-Ra, Mattel needs to do as they have done with like the WWE and Origins or whatever wrestling people are, where there's a buck that works for both. Like, give us a proper Princess of Power vintage toy line and make some Wonder Woman dolls in that scale that are action figure dolls with
Hmm.
brushable hair, so the girls can have their hair play Scott.
Well, I mean,
Um,
that's what Rick was just saying. Like his boy just got into DC superhero girls, and they had the very nice dolls, but they also had those action figures that were sort of 6-inch
mhm,
adjacent, so that young girls who wanted, you know,
yeah,
girl action figures could play with their like brothers or their like boyfriends
yeah,
or whatever. So it's that thing where like I hate to be like diversity and accessibility, but I mean the fact of the matter is like if you have the tools, you'll go
do
play
it.
with it.
If you have the tooling and it exists, it's way cheaper to just throw something at the wall to see how it lands. And I
Yeah.
feel like this, and because of sort of the research and reaching out beyond just the toy lines that I like, one of the things that really struck me about Crystar, um, and in humanoids was just in both of those cases, one was Marvel, like, we need to get into marketing. The other was like Hasbro, like, we need to, what's the next big toy line? Visionaries, sectars, etc. Like all these sort of lines that didn't land, there was a willingness to try to create a concept, throw it at the wall, see what happened. Did it succeed? No, but at the same time, and there's a pretty healthy contingency of us who are still interested in these things 40 years later. So to a degree, it was successful. Not, I mean, in humanoids, it's ridiculous. Like it made $80 million, but because it didn't make $100 million, it was considered a failure, and Hasbro canceled it. But here's the kicker: like they debuted the toy line in '87. Was it '87? '86? Whatever. One of those years. It was. I should
Yeah.
remember,
87
but
seems late.
the regular cartoon didn't hit until September, and the comic book didn't start hitting until like October or December. They'd already canceled it. So it didn't, they dropped it at the end of summer. They had canceled it by the fall. It didn't even get a Christmas where it was like an active toy line on shelves. Considering the
Yeah.
size of those monsters and the price point, 34.99 suggested retail. 34.99 in 1980s money is a lot.
Yeah.
But it,
And the other thing is,
so
at the time, there
those are
was,
Christmas gifts.
yeah, and I mean, like, I remember that was a weird time pre-Turtles where I was probably like too old for toys, but I was still very much into it. But there was like so many options that I couldn't really kind of like focus on any one thing. And then Ninja Turtles hit, and that was, almost like Power Rangers would a few years later. It just
Yeah.
became the thing that everything else spun out after that. The whole industry changed because of that. But prior to that, I mean, there was just like, and I think we knew too, everyone was just throwing spaghetti at the wall. So we were all kind of like grasping at straws, like, what do you dig your hooks in and go for the ride? And what do you like let slop off? And also, are your parents willing to pay the money to
Mhm.
make all these experiments too? So I mean,
Yeah.
there was a lot of failure and a lot of reasons why because it was just oversaturation.
Yeah. And I think, I think Hasbro sort of, and hello, Payne, lovely to see you. I honestly, I think that Hasbro is wanting to get into licensing their stuff out more is
Hmm.
probably the better, it's probably best case scenario because you've got the loyal subjects who's wanting to build their company, willing to license it. I know people previously have said there were some issues, but so far the Rainbow Bright Strawberry Shortcake stuff has been epic. Well
Yeah.
made, very durable. Toys that as an adult collector I can appreciate, but also a toy line I could see giving to a kid to play with. Um, so far, everything I've seen of the gem doll, and all the reviews, because I can't find it yet, people. But all the reviews I've seen, it looks like a durable toy a kid could play with.
Yep.
And if they do
And
that
I
with
mean,
Mask, game changer.
yeah, mask is supposed to be pretty durable, expensive, but durable at the very least.
Yeah,
So I mean, looking forward to it. I mean, also too, I mean, Hasbro. I mean, there was all those like apocalyptic videos responding to the CEO wanting to get into gaming more than toys kind of thing. But I mean, we've already seen this strategy. I mean, like they're already trying to like lease out product or licenses because they own all the licenses. They
yeah,
keep eating their competition. So they're starting to like loosen the reins and let other people take the risk, which is great. But on top of that too, I mean, like I was talking to someone, we're kind of like I think the Marvel license is up next year, like the end of next year. And there's laughs. Because that's it's more money to like I think they have to like get the license. They have to spend the money. They have to take the risk. And I mean Marvel's no risk, but at the same time they're kind of like that's not our strategy. So I wouldn't be surprised to see like some big Marvel shakeup happening in the next like year and a half.
So one thing about Mask and because I did, and I'm looking up the numbers from the Toy Geeks episode because and they do the pricing thing at the end. So the Rhino retailed for $24.99 to $29.99 in $1985, which comes out to about 80 to 90 now. So Rhino's $99.99. It's only about $10 more. I'm gonna assume that's the licensing fee.
Yeah.
So it's expensive, but it's comparable to the 80s prices based on where our US, I can't speak to Canada. You probably have a better economy than we do right now. But based on the US dollar, the prices are comparable in US to what they were. It's just we as adult collectors who've been remember 40 years ago that something was $24.99 haven't all got realized that we have to adjust it just because our salaries have not gone up comparable to the
Yeah.
rest of
And also
inflation.
we have to pay for it instead of our parents, which
Yeah,
they'll
you've
talk about
got
more.
extra things that you have to deal with, which
Yeah, like bills.
we'll talk offline about that because I'm not sure how if I bought something here and sent it to you what that would look like. So we'll figure it out.
It's a pain because it's the shipping that's the killer.
Okay.
I mean, we get all the stuff here, and the thing is, like, it's quite nice because we don't have Target here anymore. So, like, a lot of the stuff that does go to Target goes to much better, easier venues here
Okay.
for us to get. Like, how
Yeah.
that is.
I think I actually almost believe the opposite. I think Hasbro, despite it all, there is some sort of once they lose Star Wars, that's a big legacy brand for them because they are technically Kenner and they've been doing those toys for 20 years. What I hope is that when it comes time to negotiate with Disney, they actually point out that Star Wars toys are not selling what they used to, and that some of
The
my
magic.
understanding is a bunch of things like character selection is not actually Hasbro doesn't have the final say in what they get to make and what characters they get to pick. And I'm hoping sort of the fact that sales have gone, I mean, obviously sales have gone down because they're focusing, characters aren't coming out until months after the new movie has come out. And like, I'm hoping that Disney sort of sees that and Hasbro brings it up and Hasbro gets a little bit more control over product because what we do see with, say, classified is that sales are much better on classified product overall because Hasbro gets to pick what they come out with. So
Yeah. And also, I mean, like, the level of love and care they put into classified, like, the amount of accessories.
yeah,
And granted, that's their IP. They don't have to pay anyone else
they
for
don't
this
have
stuff.
to pay a
But
royalty. So
you can see the love in there versus, like, I've said it before. I mean, anytime you watch a Star Wars Hasbro panel, it looks like a hostage situation. Like the mouse has a gun pointing at all of them as they speak, and they're like, "Don't you dare mention any OT figures." And they're like,
right.
"No, sir."
All right. We're gonna wrap it up because it is that. Oh shoot. Wait. I forgot Barbara's skin. Oops.
Oh, Barbara.
Poor Barb's. She just had the worst. Let me fix that. Anyway,
The legs. What do you want?
right? She's got legs. She doesn't need skin. She can be white. All right, really quick, Andrew. I'm gonna put you in solo so we can see your page.
Oh, yes. Sure. So no background. Love it. Very easy today.
Excellent. That looks really good, Andrew. I think it looks better than mine, to be honest.
I kept it very
Uh,
primary color today, so
and then solo layout. There we go.
okay, that's fancier. Yeah.
Excellent. There we go. So I did a little shading on Wonder Woman's gold bits, but that's just because there's enough space to do some of the gold bits. But anyway, all right. With that said, we're gonna wrap it up, and we actually made it the full 2 hours, Andrew. We survived our colds. Thank you, Dayquil.
Right. And
I
soon to be
can't
night.
quit you, Dayquil. No, just kidding. That sounds bad. That sounds bad.
I can't quit you off, Cotton.
Right? Exactly. Anyway, where can the people find you, Andrew?
Oh, where can they find me? You can find me at the local drag brunch under the name Miss Carrie. But also, this dark. You can find me on Instagram or YouTube right here under Gayties Toys, where yesterday I did a video on V for the 80s sci-fi miniseries.
One of
And
my
next week,
favorite miniseries as a child.
so good. So good. Next week will be, I want to say, Dino Saucers finally, so look forward to that. And yeah, otherwise I'm posting this nonsense on Instagram all the time.
Excellent. And then Thursday you'll be here for the cavalcade. So
Yes.
tune in live. We're gonna be doing hot takes on. If you enjoyed our hot takes today, you'll love it on Thursday when we've got Quip and Derek Hoover. They'll be for it. All we're missing is a couple more people, and we can do a Brady Bunch style grid. Let's see. I should really quick. What is this? Is how is it March already? Anyway. All right. So as always, there will be shorts dropping this week. I'm trying to catch up on a bunch of pages I had printed and just sat. So there are more shorts now than there will be in a couple weeks when I finally get through that stack. So just go watch shorts. They should pop up for you. There's plenty. There's an entire week of them coming. And then tomorrow, yes. Tomorrow at sometime, I'm dropping Cabal Creations Volume 2 by Busty. Dusty Standiford. It's an unofficial Cosmic Legions coloring book full of Dusty's original art. So I'm doing a flip through and coloring a page that goes live tomorrow. So check that out. 9 a.m. So it'll be there tomorrow in the day when you wake up. So check it out. Next Friday, Color and Chill Imperial Sand Troopers from a vintage 1977 Kenner Canada coloring book. And then on Saturday, for those of you who enjoy the toy catalogs, Barbie World of Fashion 1978. And there's some really funky, fun 70s fashions in there. And then, of course, on Thursday, we've got the Cavalcade. Next Sunday, I'll be here doing more style guide pages with Chris Plastic of Shiny Plastic People.
Yeah.
So, right? Well, you know, busty, dusty, musty, it happens. So,
Rusty.
You know,
Rusty's
I watched Serial Mom yesterday, so you know there was a whole chesty busty in there. So, and on that note, thank you everyone for hanging out with us. Thank you for tolerating our cold syrup hopped up, meandering conversation. Andrew and I'm speaking for Andrew here because I don't want to have my heart broken, but I enjoy hanging out with Andrew quite a bit these Sundays. So thank you for coming out and indulging us, making a reason to hang out.
And I love that journey for you.
Exactly. Thank you, everyone. We'll see you in the next one. Yeah, I was gonna try to think of something witty, but whatever. Good night and have a pleasant tomorrow.
Bye.